Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Hello, and welcome to On the Aisle with me, Tom Alvarez. Guests on today's episode are Sharon Cruz, Board President of Epilogue Players, and Dwayne Mercier, Past President. Join me now as I go on the aisle for a chat with Sharon and Dwayne.
Let your imagination soar with Audible. With stories across every genre, from expert advice to fantasy, you'll be inspired to imagine new worlds, possibilities, and ways of thinking. Listening can even lead to a positive change in your mood, habits, and overall well-being. As an Audible member, you'll get to choose one title a month to keep from their entire catalog, including bestsellers and new releases. Allow yourself to delve into the spooky this season by listening to classics like Stephen King's The Shining and Pet Sematary. There's more to imagine when you listen. New members can try Audible free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/imagine or text imagine to 500-500. That's audible.com/imagine or text imagine to 500-500.
Worried about letting someone else pick out the perfect avocado for your perfect impress them on the third date guacamole? Well, good thing Instacart shoppers are as picky as you are. They find ripe avocados like it's their guac on the line. They are milk expiration date detectives. They bag eggs like the 12 precious pieces of cargo they are. So let Instacart shoppers overthink your groceries so that you can overthink what you'll wear on that third date. Download the Instacart app today to get free delivery on your first 3 orders, while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
Well, welcome, Sharon, and welcome, Dwayne, to my podcast. It's great to have you on.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
And, I have to admit to my audience that I have not yet seen a show, and I don't know how that's happened, but we're going to do something about that. I invited you on because I'm very interested in your work, and I know, Dwayne, you've got a lot of history that you're aware of that you want to share, and of course, Sharon. Well, let's get into it. You are the outgoing board president, correct, Dwayne?
Correct.
All right. And you, Sharon, are the incoming president.
That's correct.
When did your tenure begin?
I was just elected at our last big members meeting in August.
Okay. And how is it that you came to that job?
Well, I recently became a member of Epilogue. I have long been involved in community theater around Indianapolis, but it was not in the capacity of being able to give back. Now I'm in the capacity where I can actually contribute some. So I purchased myself a membership to support Epilogue, and in a welcome email, someone from the board said, "Now, are you interested in volunteering?" And I said, "Oh, I would be happy to serve wherever I'm needed."
And you know what happens then, right?
Which may have been a mistake.
Yeah.
But I was really grateful for the opportunity to get involved because Epilogue is an incredible little organization. I had been fortunate enough to be cast in our June production of Our Town. I had the best bit part in Our Town. I played the town gossip, and won an award and everything. So that was some fun. And it was such a wonderful way of being able to bond with other performers and crew members. And it really, you could tell, affected every audience every night.
Yeah. And what is your expertise? You're an attorney, is that right?
That's correct.
And
yeah.
tell me about your work. What's your specialty?
Oh, I'm actually in data privacy and cybersecurity.
Oh, my.
Yeah. It's a rapidly changing field of law, and, everyone's getting hacked. My current position is I come in, and when someone has been hacked, or sued for being hacked, I defend them.
Wow, your time has come, hasn't it?
It really has.
The service you provide.
Well, prior to law school, I worked in tech support, so it's really a perfect place for me. I understand what it is to be the tech support guy who's like, hey, I told the C-suite to upgrade last quarter and the quarter before that, and it's too late now.
Yeah.
I completely can defend that.
So you are getting your feet wet now as board president and
I
learning
am.
the ropes. So far, how has it been for you?
Well, I'm very grateful to past President Dwayne here, as well as past President Ed Mobley and all of the board members. The institutional knowledge that I'm working with is fantastic. I am very grateful for that.
And how many board members do you have?
7?
That's a good size,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
Not too little, not too many.
Yeah. And Dwayne, how long were you board president?
Almost 2 years. It was a position that I said I absolutely did not want. I've been on the board for about 6 years, and I was asked to fill in as vice president. We had some turnover during the COVID epidemic, and needed a fill-in for vice president. I said, I'll do that as long as you promise me that you don't make me president at any point, at any time. Then, as things would have it, we had a situation where I had to step up and fill the president's shoes. I do a lot of other things for the organization, and
Dwayne is indispensable.
Adding the presidency
including
to that.
starring in an upcoming show, which we'll talk about later.
That's
So
right.
You wore many hats. Yeah.
So I'm in the marketing and the. I actually got my start at Epilogue almost 10 years ago when President Ed Mobley put out a call. He said, "Does anybody have a microphone and a mic stand we could borrow?" And I brought it down and gave it to him, and I said, you really need to have. He says, "Yeah, you have one," and it just grew from there. And it's a great organization. It's nice.
What's the mission of the organization, Sharon?
Oh, of course. We focus on seniors in our community. A lot of theater and arts organizations didn't focus on productions that would feature senior performers, which, of course, the originators of Epilogue felt was a problem, and I can appreciate that.
What do you consider senior? What is the age?
Our mission
span?
statement says 50 years old and over. And we tend to put on shows that address the kinds of issues that older audience members might be concerned about, like putting parents in for care, the passage of time, like with Our Town, reflecting on the value of how you spend your time and with whom. But it's not all doom and gloom, all right?
Sure. Well, yes, and I understand that recently you've amended your mission to include younger plays or shows that have younger characters. Is that true?
That's correct. I, in fact, do not qualify as the over 50 category myself.
Right.
And so a lot of our we've opened up our casting so that our performers are all ranges of actors, of ages.
What was your conscious decision to do that? To expand the age limit?
Dwayne?
Actually, we've included younger actors for many years. It started out as 50. The originator said you had to be 50 years old to join, and they would not cast anyone under 50. But then gradually they said, we have a lot of roles here that need to be filled by younger actors. So younger actors were eligible to participate, but they couldn't join. Then the age limit dropped back down to 45, and then by the time we moved into the current facility in 84, the age was at 40. And then in 2015, we decided, we've got all these people who are participating. Let's let them join the
Yeah,
organization.
because this is a membership organization.
Correct.
What does that mean? What is the membership?
Well, it's a membership organization only in that we have membership dues that support us financially, but also the members are eligible to participate in our events like parties and pitch-ins, and they're eligible to vote on matters such as the board elections and the bylaws and amendments. So that's really what the membership is. But our casting is not limited just to our members. We have open casting.
Okay. So it's a not-for-profit organization, correct?
Yes.
So how do you support yourself besides memberships?
Ticket sales and the generosity of other donors.
Okay, and do your donors, corporate donors and sponsors?
We have a few grants. We've received grants from the Indianapolis Arts Council and the city. We have applications. We actually got a grant from Indiana Arts Commission to help us get through the COVID thing. And we've got some applications into various organizations.
Are your shows sponsored by businesses or
Not yet.
that sort of thing? Yeah.
We have a few advertisers that support us in our programs and stuff.
Do you want to go in that direction to increase your budget and?
I think we would be delighted at any interest from corporate sponsors, but it's not something that we have actively pursued yet. I would be very happy to see that kind of support, particularly for this particular niche of our theater world.
Well, from my own experiences, I have my own arts organizations, Magic Thread Cabaret, and we're supported. We have a not-for-profit entity, a fiscal sponsor, but so I know there's a lot of challenge connected with running an organization when you have to rely on yourselves and a few volunteers.
Exactly, yeah.
And so it's not a fully professional, would you agree, that in the sense of having staff people
That's correct.
do all those sorts of things?
And that is what I am wrapping my arms around as the new president. But fortunately, past President Dwayne here hasn't abandoned me. As you can tell, he's indispensable.
Do you look to widen that board by any chance?
If necessary. As of right now, I'm trying not to shake things up too much.
Yeah.
I think I may be the youngest board president that Epilogue has seen, and I don't want to scare the locals.
Well, the only reason I asked that, what about volunteers who'd be willing to serve on committees and that kind of thing?
We would be delighted.
And sometimes you get accountants, you get lawyers, you get those professionals who don't want to be board members, but they'll serve
On a committee.
On a committee. Yeah. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Absolutely.
We adopted a strategic plan this past January, and one of the goals in that plan is to create a sort of a board of advisors, not necessarily a board of directors that have to vote on everything, but some advisors that we can bring in with specific talents or knowledge that can help us out. And
of your board currently, do you have like an executive board so that everyone doesn't have to meet once a month, for instance, and you have just a core group that makes all the decisions?
Nope, we meet once a month, all 7 of us.
Yeah. Tell me about the space itself. Either of you.
It's a beautiful little corner of Footlight Musicals building at 19th and Alabama. It's a very intimate venue, seats 50, and the stage is also very intimate. It makes the set building really, really cool. With our town, of course, our town's always staged as kind of a black box anyway. It was really fantastic the way we were able... Dwayne was able to differentiate parts of our small set with lighting and with the talent of my castmates.
Is it a proscenium?
it's part of the Headback. Are you familiar with the Headback story?
I am, yes.
Yeah, Phil Headback donated the Footlight Musicals facility. Yeah, I mean, that's just an amazing story. He purchased the building that was the old Civic Theater, and then he bought the building next to it and then some lots, and then he just gave it to them. He donated it to Footlight Musicals.
I didn't know that's where we got our name, Headback Theater.
Headback
That's
Corner.
beautiful.
He and his wife donated. I mean, it's just
It's called, did I hear you say Head Back Corner?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the kind of the nickname for that whole...
You know, I saw a production there. I didn't see any of your productions, but we talked about, I had seen an independent production, Zach and Zach Productions, of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. That I asked about the proscenium because it seemed to me the stage... Was it positioned in a corner of that space, or did I imagine that? Or was
they did a thrust out from the main stage, and then they put some tables around that thrust.
Got it. It's all coming back, but they really transported it into like a nightclub in Berlin, right? 60s, as I recall. But I love the space. So what's the capacity?
50. Sometimes a little bit more than 50, but not much more.
And I understand that you're going to be doing some upgrading on your lighting and your sound.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The board has been running a campaign, Light Up Your Life, to improve on our lighting equipment there in our theater. And I'm grateful again for Dwayne's assistance because he does all of the lighting and is intending to help us install them.
And when do you intend to have all this in place, or when's the renovation start? Not renovation.
Our goal now is December. It looks like we're going to be able to get the vast majority of it done in December, so it'll be ready for our productions beginning in February.
And speaking of productions, you've got one coming up in November. And I understand that, I mentioned earlier that you're starring in the production, so tell us about it.
Starring? Yeah, it is. It's called Morning After Grace. It's a comedy, and it's a little more adult-themed than what Epilogue is used to. There's a bit of language in it and some adult situations, so we're recommending not for youth, but
PG-13.
Yeah.
What is that? 16 and up, or
16 and older?
Yeah.
But it's about a man who, he wakes up one morning and there's a woman laying next to him on his couch, and it turns out that he met her at a funeral the night before, and I don't want to give too much away, but it goes into some of the there are a lot of comedic situations that arise out of that, but then there's also some scenes where he has to come to grips with
some pathos.
Yeah, and there's a third character who is a retired professional baseball player. He used to be with the Detroit Tigers, and he has a few secrets of his own. He comes in to visit, and the three of them have quite a spirited couple of days of together. So
you would say that this is sort of a dramedy?
Yeah, it's more of a comedy, but there's as you get toward the end of the show, there's a little bit more drama. And
what are the names of the other people on the show?
Karen K. Temple is the female, and then Kevin Bell plays the Ollie. His character's name is Ollie, Oliver, the baseball player.
Tell me a bit about their backgrounds.
Karen has done a few shows at Epilogue, but she's acted in theaters all around the Indianapolis area. She's done quite a few shows at Hendricks County. She lives in Avon, I think. So, yeah, she kind of concentrates on that side of town. Kevin, this is the first time I've worked with Kevin. He has a musical background and a dance background. When he was introduced to me, they said he was one of the, most amazing dancers they'd ever seen. He's done a lot of shows. He's actually on the board of Footlight Musicals as an adjunct board member. He's very talented, and I'm looking forward to...
Who's the director?
It's directed by Michael Beeson, and this is his first time directing. Marie Beeson is our treasurer, and Michael has done a lot of tech work at Footlight Musicals and other theaters around And his wife has directed a lot, and I think he just finally said, you know what, I can do that. And he's doing a great job.
Tell me about Sharon Cruz, the person. Are you from Indianapolis?
Yes, yes.
Tell me about your background.
Well, I moved here when I was about 9 and grew up down on the south side, Franklin Township. I graduated from Franklin Central, go Flashes, and I am an IU-PUI grad, now IU-Indy, as well as an IU-McKinney Law School grad, so I'm a double jag. I first got into community theater back in 2004 or 2005. I was freshly graduated from high school, still an undergrad, and desperately missing the drama the drama division of Franklin Central. And I was fortunate enough to stumble into Theater on the Square, which is now District Theater, right there on Mass Ave. And Theater on the Square became my second home. I was always too cowardly to actually go out for an audition, but I teched. I just wanted to be part of the stories telling, part of the magic. My favorite part about being backstage or being in the light booth is being able to see the reactions on the audience members' faces. Because when you're performing, you don't really get to break that fourth wall much. But I'm not on stage. I can look at the audience and see how much they're enjoying the story that we've worked so hard to put together. I did a lot of really great musicals there at Tots. My favorite, of course, was the Great American Trailer Park Musical. I was backstage spinning the Garstecki's trailer for both runs of that. And I also was backstage for Evil Dead the Musical. It involved, my hands were stained pink for days with the fake blood. So I did end up on stage for a couple of things. I had a couple of bit parts in Zootopia. I was very obviously the Gentile. And I ended up with like a non-speaking on-stage role in the one-woman show, Does This Show Make My Butt Look Fat?
That's a new one on me.
Oh, it was a hilarious show. I worked with Julian Skeep, who had played Mrs. Garstecki in the Trailer Park Musical.
It occurred to me that you must feel very fortunate that you seem not to have ever been pigeonholed. Obviously, with Asian background, you seem to have alluded to being stereotyped.
Oh,
correct?
It's happened, yes, absolutely.
Oh, you have? Has it?
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean, if I'm honest, my turn in Zootopia was not my favorite. I was hilarious, but I was also directed to have this really terrible pigeon accent.
Oh, no.
And it was, 2008, 2009? Now, it was funny for the comedy.
Yeah.
Right? But
No,
I didn't know how to advocate for myself or how to say why I was uncomfortable. But something that has burned into my memory, Tots used to do, the Theater on the Square, used to do like a receiving line after the show. And so the cast would line up as the audience was exiting, and so they'd actually get to say, hey, thanks for coming. That show sold out so much that we extended twice. We had so many audience members, but only once did I have a young man who was Asian American, and he did not shake my hand nor look me in the eye.
Oh,
and
my.
I understood why.
That had a sting.
It was hard. Well, and the other bit part, of course, was, because I played two parts. I was the Asian fiance, and then I also came out as a Latina nurse. I'm Filipino, so this is... Well,
yes.
I suppose par for the course.
Yeah.
But in both, I was directed to have a very strong kind of caricatured accent, and that was hard.
Well, because of my Latino background, of course, I identify, and as a reviewer all the years I've had to write about this very subject, and it's really tough, but I think there's more awareness now on the part of in the theater.
Absolutely.
And it didn't just happen with Black Lives Matter. It was happening in theater long before that, about being very sensitive to these issues.
Oh, yeah.
And, casting there's a new, if I may, politically correct term for non-traditional casting is what they used to call it, but now they're calling it something else. I can't remember what it is, but it's just becoming more and more common to see people of color in roles
Absolutely.
that before they were always Caucasians and so on and so forth. And audiences are being trained to just accept what they're seeing on stage as, it's become normalized.
Thank
it's
goodness.
no longer a, quote, distraction.
Yeah.
How can I believe that a black person is playing this British character or whatever and so forth? I mean, it's really changed remarkably.
I'm actually super grateful
there's been
for it.
an Asian princess in Disney in Aladdin and so on and so forth. So
I once auditioned for Doubt. I think it's such a powerful and beautiful play, and I desperately wanted the chance to play one of the nuns. I think the Filipinos are almost all Catholic. We are predominantly Catholic, and the director just needed Irish nuns and could not see it, which broke my heart because it would have been such an opportunity as a performer. So I was really disappointed about that. But I mean, that was years ago.
Well, I don't think things are ever going to turn back to the way they were. But I do remember having to review something at Beef and Boards, and it was a musical, and there were Asian characters, and they had to bow and shuffle, and they got a lot of heat for that, and that finally forced them to look beyond. Well, the excuse was, you have to look at it in historical context. That's the way the audiences saw it when it was first produced. I can't remember the name of the musical. It's really well known. And then fast forward to recently, I saw a production of King and I, and the whole cast, they were all Asians.
Yes.
And it was remarkable.
I have to shout out two of the cast members that were in that performance, Natalie and Ian Cruz.
Yes.
Same last name, no relation. But Natalie and Ian, I've had the opportunity to work with them as well.
Great.
I was backstage at Theater on the Square for them. And they, I believe, are on the board and are founders for Fonseca Theater.
Yes.
We would be remiss to not shout them out and their mission of exactly what you're describing.
Well, I happened to see Ian and Natalie the other evening because I was the world premiere of Dirty Laundry, an indie film, and he plays a Latino dad in the film. And so it wasn't that much of a stretch, really.
Not at all. Same colonizer.
And Natalie played a role in a musical that I helped produce, so I'm familiar with both of them. And they've been great representatives of the Asian community in the theater community. They've helped break down a lot of barriers, I believe. They're trailblazers.
100%. I look up to them enormously.
So, Dwayne, you have a long career in community theater, is that correct?
I started in theater back just after electricity was invented, it seems like. I started in junior high school and started in community theater in my hometown of Salem, Oregon. And then I had a 20-year career in the military and continued community theater at the various bases that I was stationed at. Had theater groups funded by the Morale Welfare Group. And so I continued that, and then when I retired from that, I retired here in Indianapolis, and I've been involved in theater. How old am I now? I'm really old.
Like I said, institutional knowledge.
Yeah. I'll use that one. I'm 76, by the way, so that's another reason why your theater's mission
You're old
appealed
enough to
me.
be my older brother.
Okay. So how is it that a boy from Oregon showed up in Indiana? How did that happen?
It was my last duty station. I was stationed. I was in the Air Force, but I was stationed at Fort Benjamin Harrison.
Okay.
They had a Defense Information School where they taught broadcasting and journalism and public affairs. I was an instructor there.
Okay.
And my wife grew up in Brownsburg, Indiana, and we decided to stay here when I retired.
Back in the day, I knew people who had made their way, people in broadcasting. I started my career at Channel 6, and I know that I worked with people who were in Indy, and this is what brought them here, Fort Ben, and that school. It was very famous
Yeah.
at one time, correct?
Yeah.
for churning out broadcasters.
Yeah. The school moved to Fort Meade, Maryland in the early 2000s when Fort Harrison closed down. But
so in that work, did they have a full-scale broadcast facility at Fort Bend, the school?
No, it was strictly teaching. Yeah, it was. We had six or eight radio studios.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Two television studios.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
it was typically a 10-week course. When I was teaching, we would teach broadcast writing, and then we would teach voice and diction, on-air talent, and radio skills. Teach you how to be a DJ and edit video or audio tape when you had to do it with a razor blade. I was really good at that, by the way.
This is why Dwayne is our lights and sound guy still.
And then a couple of weeks of studio training where they learned how to work with slides and film and videotape and direct newscasts. Yeah.
So did you go on to pursue broadcasting?
After that, I worked in advertising for about 10 years.
You went to the dark side.
Yeah. I was a producer, video producer, produced television commercials.
For whom?
Small agency in town in Indianapolis called Concepts Marketing Group.
Okay.
And then after that, I went to work for the American Legion National Headquarters here in Indianapolis as their audiovisual production manager.
Mm-hmm. So do you, beyond Epilogue, are you involved in other stuff, other community stuff using those skills? Because I know people like you are really in demand in so many ways.
Yes.
I do some photography. I work with indie ghost light photography a little bit.
Rob Slavin.
Yeah.
He's a genius.
Yes.
I've worked with Rob on my shows as well. So he's truly an artist.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
he calls me when he gets overbooked, and so I've helped him out a little bit. But,
so you're an expert in production photography. I mean, shooting productions is an art form in itself.
Yeah, I'm kind of the resident photographer for Epilogue, and I do mainly the headshots, but then the production photography as well.
That's great. Well, you've got quite a few talents that
You can see why he is indispensable.
Yeah.
I couldn't do this without him.
So the kind of job you're holding now and the one that you held, what are some of its biggest challenges for you?
For me, I think that you mean the job as president?
Yeah.
I think that this has been very well run and organized, and honestly, if I were to do nothing with my term as president, it would likely survive me just fine. But one of the goals that I have is to help diversify our audience, not just in color, but in age. The productions that we put on are universal. They're addressing humanity and hope and love and life. These are stories worth telling and stories worth seeing.
So would you agree that maybe the key is going to be the way you message?
I think so.
Yeah,
we've been a quiet organization.
To let people know that you're there for everyone.
Exactly. Right? We've been quiet and sustaining, but I think our reach could be wider. I mean, a lot of folks don't even know that Epilogue's there, and they've been to Footlight. So it's something that Dwayne and I recognize.
So it's time for you to stop hiding your light under a bushel, right?
That's exactly it.
And you no longer, you get tired of hearing, best kept secret, that sort of thing. Huh?
But and I'm often amazed by this. So Epilogue has been around for 47 years.
Yeah.
47 years. And we put on this next show will be our 170th show. And throughout the 10 years that I've been involved in the theater, and we have never actually run into a financial bind. Granted, our budgets aren't great, aren't the hugest, but we always have people that are going to contribute. But the thing that amazes me is that, when you go back and look at the history of this awesome organization and the people that have participated in as president or in the board, and sometimes the board didn't work out so well. There's been infighting like any
organization.
Volunteer organization. But how it survives and how it thrives is just amazing. And it's always had such a good reputation that as far as I know, and I've never heard, anything bad about it. There for a while there, people said, well, you know what, Epilogue Players, they just specialize in, putting on plays for old people. And, maybe some people stayed away because of that reason. But it just amazes me at how this organization has managed to survive and thrive.
I learned in my years in not-for-profit and theater world that it's important that your mission be solid, and because you can always point to your mission when everything else is falling apart.
Right.
It's usually about egos and power trips and all of that.
Yeah.
And if you stay focused on your mission, you will survive. It should be your guiding light. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Sure. And I think that's probably what's behind the success.
And that's precisely why I think even if I were a terrible board president and entirely hands off, this organization would still manage to be stable because it's
What
been
is
run
your
well.
vision for the future, Sharon?
I want to grow our audience first.
Okay, well, you said diversify.
Right, that's my biggest goal, is to make sure that we're no longer the best kept secret in the Heron Morton area, right? So the other thing that I would like to do is diversify our community partnerships. I recently found out that IU Indy's School of Liberal Arts houses the Center for Ray Bradbury Studies. And I was fortunate enough to take a tour, and they do like an annual 451 Fest to celebrate American literature. And I was hoping that perhaps maybe Epilogue could partner with them at some point. They have all of the old scripts and screenplays, etc., from Ray Bradbury's archives.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Right. It would be, and everybody loves sci-fi. Ray Bradbury was the father of American sci-fi and comics, and I have so much respect for everything.
That it just occurs to me. We have so many organizations that are looking for partnerships, but you clearly have to think out of the box. I hate that, but for want of a better description. Another example is what the Vonnegut Library has been able to do with its partnerships, And they're very, very creative about, when you join forces that way, you can develop new audiences and offer the public something unique that benefits them both in terms of traffic and support and all of those
exactly.
things.
I'm still putting together a proposal.
So that's a great idea. Yeah.
I need to.
So you would see on your part, you would see dramatizing some of that stuff on your stage.
Sure, a presentation or even a radio play with any of those scripts. That would be so much fun. So I have not presented a formalized proposal yet, but it is something that I'm eyeing because I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I love sci-fi personally.
Yeah. And so what do you think about that, Mr. Past President?
Sounds great to me.
So, it sounds though that it would be worthwhile to bring in some younger folks in terms of the leadership too.
Absolutely. I would love, not of course to ding on my current board. They're amazing. And like I said, institutional knowledge is also indispensable. But everyone's been doing this for so many years, and we could use some help.
You know though that everybody struggles in all the performing arts in terms of developing new audiences. Our generation, we're making our way out eventually a bit, so those seats need to be filled.
That's exactly it.
You got to start thinking about that with children, as a matter of fact, at some point. But where you are, you're midpoint, and you've got this opportunity to capture a whole new audience that's just discovering theater. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I'm grateful that I think part of being stuck in our houses in the pandemic kind of really encouraged people to start coming back to live theater because it's such a communal experience that we were all missing. Even movie theaters, same thing. You can't get that communal reaction anywhere else. And with live theater, that feedback loop between the audience and the performers, that's so irreplaceable and not you can't recreate that over Zoom. It's not the same.
Well, I must say that you convey great enthusiasm and passion, which is what I think one needs to be in a position such as yours, in my experience. So I wish you well with your new position and with the future of Epilogue. And Dwayne, it sounds like you're going to be around as long as they'll have you, right?
That's right. Yep.
No, there is, as you said, there's nothing like institutional knowledge.
Exactly.
And you've got such a great legacy there, and I can't wait to make up for what I've missed. And it sounds like, tell me about the rest of the season before we wrap this up.
So we've got Morning After Grace in November, and then
right.
in February is Bus Stop, Willie Minge, the classic.
Yeah.
The next show is a two-person play called Visiting Mr. Green. Then our final show of the season will be the Cemetery Club. So
it's a great season.
Yeah, they all have kind of that theme. A lot of senior activity going on.
But they're poignant and beautiful stories.
Visiting Mr. Green, I saw that on Broadway. It's such a wonderful show.
Oh, we're very excited.
Can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
Wow, it's really a saleable season, I would say. You've got a lot
I'd like
there.
to think so.
Yeah. Well, I wish you the best of luck, and thanks for taking the time to join me today.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to seeing you in the seats.
Yes, we can't wait to see you out there.
Oh, I'll be on the aisle, so look for me.
Thank you so much for having us, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
Our thanks go out to our media sponsor, Urban Times. Urban Times is a monthly news magazine which serves as the official neighborhood newsletter for 16 Indianapolis neighborhoods, offering news about development, arts and entertainment, and from the business community.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.